Hiya, welcome to LSB Feasters Radio Channel, where we keep great radio from the past alive. Today, we are going to Boston and the Dean of Talk Radio. I'm talking about Jerry Williams. Jerry spent most of his life on the radio doing talk radio, rabble-rousing, and just pretty much stirring the pot. Jerry came to Boston from WIBG in Philadelphia in the late 1950s to go to work at WMEX. He spent many years there until he got the call to go to Chicago. And he went to WBBM, where he did talk radio for a short period till the station flipped format to all news. He went back to Boston and then spent many years on WBZ. After he left WBZ, he had to deal with a non-compete, so he spent some time in Hartford and Philadelphia, but he came back to Boston and he spent many years on WRKO. Jerry was really good at what he did, and I'm telling you, he did not mind stirring things up one bit. If you haven't heard the Dean of Talk Radio, check him out. It's Jerry Williams on WBZ Boston.
Paul W. McCracken, chairman of the President's Council of Economic Advisers, said today that the Nixon administration wants business and labor to take it easy in boosting prices and wages. He says we face a new ball game, and he said price and wage decisions must be consistent with the economic environment of the future, which will be less inflationary. However, the administration did not set a very good example when the president's salary was increased only last month by 100%, and the salaries of lawmakers were increased 42%. All 19 persons plummeted to their deaths aboard a Prinair airliner when it crashed into a mountain forest near San Juan, Puerto Rico last night. A government spokesman said the plane apparently strayed off course because of bad weather. None of the bodies could be identified because of their condition. The weather word for Boston and vicinity tonight: considerable high cloudiness and not so cold. Low temperatures in the 20s downtown and in the teens in the suburbs. West to northwest winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, but probably clearing in the afternoon, with high temperatures in the 30s. Northwest winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. The present temperature 28 degrees. The top story of the hour: 8 children and 1 woman perish in a tenement house fire in Newark, New Jersey. And that's the 11 o'clock WBZ report with portions recorded. Brought to you by the new Purity Supreme supermarkets, where hundreds and hundreds of their everyday prices are lower than the competition. So your total weekly food bill will be less. Shop Purity Supreme, the anti-inflationary supermarket. I'm Streeter Stewart. WBZ now presents The People Speak, a sampling of audience response to our station's editorials. And now here's our general manager, Mr. Jim Lightfoot.
We've been backing a new statewide treatment program to handle the growing alcoholism problem. Among those we've heard from on this issue is Dr. James Hawley Currens of Boston. From his own practice and other medical work, he agrees on the seriousness of the problem, but he has grave doubts about plans for the new state alcoholism program. Here's how he put it.
The present state program under the Public Health Department costs the taxpayers nearly $500,000 a year. Yet there has been no scientific information presented to show that this program is a real benefit, and the department has expressed disinterest in such an evaluation. Alcoholism should be attacked in the same way other public health problems are attacked, through scientific medical study. The current emphasis on the social and psychiatric aspects of the disease has been disappointing. On the other hand, Massachusetts industry has several programs in force which are administered through company medical departments. Caseworkers, usually members of Alcoholics Anonymous, work with the medical department, and some are on company payrolls. This program in industry wouldn't last long if it didn't pay dividends. The alcoholic patient poses a difficult medical problem, and he deserves a good medical treatment, both inside and outside of the hospital. Certainly a lot more information is needed regarding this public health problem and the effectiveness of all current treatment programs before more millions in tax money are committed to a state program of dubious value.
That's how R. Currens of Boston sees the problem. The new alcoholism program is going to be a major issue in this session of the legislature. We'd like to hear your views on the subject, too.
You've heard WBZ General Manager Jim Lightfoot with The People Speak, a sampling of audience response to our station's editorials.
254 5678.
824-5678.
Welcome back. This is Jerry Williams on part 2 of the 10 to Midnight Ride. With me tonight, Gary Ls Pierre, WBZ newsman, who conducted that fantastic interview with John Fitzgerald, and John Fitzgerald's attorney, a former Assistant Attorney General, Assistant District Attorney Donald Kahn, formerly head of the Anti-Crime Division in the Attorney General's office. That is Attorney General Richardson. That particular division is in a state of limbo at the moment under the new Attorney General, and there is a state of transition going on, so we won't make any claims that it won't be reinstituted, just kind of leave it lay for the moment. Now, we're going to take more questions and comments from you at 254-5678. Lay it on the line if you'd like to either Donald Kahn or Gary Ls Pierre. Hello?
Hello?
This is Jerry. You're on the air.
Yes. Well, I called up about, how about this legalizing prostitution? I'm 69 years old. I got 4 daughters. And I would like to know about legalizing prostitution.
Well, sir, that's not really the issue at hand here tonight. We appreciate your view on it. Maybe we'll get to it on some other occasion. Thanks for calling. 254-5678. Hello?
Hello?
You're on the air now, right?
Yes, Mr. Williams.
Yes.
I don't know who would be best able to answer my question. I have 2 of them. One is, what is the difference between a person placing a bet with a runner? I assume that's what they call them. And a bookie?
You want to know the difference between a runner and a bookie?
Yeah.
Well, it's a very subtle distinction. A bookie will operate usually in a fixed location. He will operate out of a bar room, a tavern, something of this nature, and he doesn't move or roam about. He will have a series of lesser little satellites touring a given area of a given city under his jurisdiction who are called runners. These runners will go to Ma Kettle and pick up her daily take from the numbers play. These runners will go to little satellite fellows who might be operating at the assembly plant down the street, etc. They're usually not booking themselves. They're picking up the take from agents of the bookie out in the field.
Right, I understand this. Now, the first question I had was, I was trying to define that, but there's something that bothers me. I mean, a man knows when he places a bet that if he wins, he's going to have to pay off this runner? Is that what they call him?
You mean the individual bettor has to pay off the runner, ma'am?
Well, so much. He has to pay off of whatever he wins.
Not necessarily so. In
Well,
other words, the runner will come back to the gambler. If the gambler, as to use the vernacular, scored, made a heavy score, the runner will bring his money to him and at the particular location where he placed the bet. Yes, that is accurate.
right. Now, that was the first thing I was thinking about. The second thing I was wondering, this may sound way off the track from what I was talking about, but you were talking about the Cosa Nostra before and, the way that they had gotten to these different nightclubs and what have you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's something I have been wondering about. There was a very famous... if there was any...
Well, again, that's out of bounds now. We're not talking about this. That is not fair game here on tonight's program. We appreciate your call. Thank you. 254-5678, 12 minutes past 11 o'clock on WBZ Radio. Donald Kahn and Gary Ls Pierre are here. Hey, let's go off and get some good food. I mean really good food at Jack and Marian's in Brookline. We'll get in that empty Elliot Richardson bus outside and go. Oh, you remember those buses that used to go around, in those campaigns? One's ready. We're going off to Jack and Marian's to get some of those delicious made-up sandwiches. You know what I mean by a made-up sandwich? You make up your own sandwich. What do you have? Roast beef, throw in a little corned beef, coleslaw. I saw a guy put chicken liver and potato salad in a sandwich the other night. Still eating, but it is too much. on delicious, freshly baked sisal bread. Jack and Marion's offer 18 different dinner selections every night. 18 different ones, from their delicious sweet and sour stuffed cabbage, freshly baked stuffed potatoes, vegetables that are fresh, of course, chicken, barbecued, with, man, the best yams you've ever tasted. I should say yams. We've got them. Tomorrow is Friday, and it's Seafood Day. Seafood chowder. This is the only seafood chowder I've ever seen where a spoon can't fall down. Stands right up. That's how thick and delicious it is. Tremendous selections of freshly baked desserts, pies, cream cakes, you name it. At Jack and Marion's, Harvard Street, Coolidge Corner in Brookline. One of America's great restaurants, and they're open till 3 a.m. Come on over. We'll be happy to see you. Now let's return on WBZ Radio to Donald Kahn and Gary Ls Pierre. Hello.
Jerry?
Yes.
Good evening. Of course, it goes without saying that I condemn the Mafia, but I'd like to ask two questions. First of all, given the premise that the Cosa Nostra operates effectively in a capitalistic society, would it not be productive in prohibiting communistic subversion? Maybe this is a syndrome that we all have, but nevertheless it's evident. Also, what is the role that the Cosa Nostra is playing today among the menacing drug problem with the youth?
Well, I can work from the last back, because I don't frankly understand your first, but here's the answer to the last one as I see it. For many years, the Cosa Nostra has not been in the drug traffic business. They get out of it, frankly, because of pressures of law enforcement, and the risk factor was too risky for them in the mid to late 50s. It is our best information that because of the tremendous increase in the drug traffic in Massachusetts and New England, where we never really had that critical a problem up until a few years ago, that they are back in it again. So they are actively involved in the illegal sale of drugs and narcotics. And would you please clarify a little bit your question relative to communism and the Cosa Nostra? I don't quite understand it, sir.
Well, I just figured that the Cosa Nostra is working effectively in our society, being that it's capitalistic and they can work under the cover of business, correct?
They certainly have done this very effectively, yes.
Right, and I would think that perhaps communism efforts, or communistic efforts, with the subversion, now maybe it's a syndrome, as I say, but nevertheless, that's probably evident in the country also, and I would think that perhaps maybe the Cosa Nostra is effective in prohibiting this from spreading, simply because they're both opposite philosophies, and one can't work with the other.
I have never heard the Cosa Nostra applauded for keeping the Communist Party in the United States under control, very frankly, sir.
All right, well, that's an interesting comment, though. 2545678 on WBZ, the Spirit of 103. Good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening, Jerry.
Yes.
I had an idea. I've had it off and on for a long while. It's maybe not realized by a lot of people, but if the gambling cash flow was cut off just even for 1 week, the system would be badly crippled because they have so many people up and down their hierarchy to pay. So if we could, it's awful hard to forbid people to bet altogether, but if we could have a 1st of April lay off the bets for 1 week campaign, just as an experiment to see how hard it hurt them, we might be able to persuade the general public not to bet for that 1 week, and that's something they can't hit back at. I wonder what comments...
It's an interesting idea. Don?
Don suggested that about a half an hour ago.
If we could...
Right about tax revolt.
If we could do this, if we could have a be mean to your bookie week and not place the bet with the friendly bookmaker for 1 week, I think it would have a startling impact. And I think that it would... you know what we even toyed with one time, and I've never said this publicly, but it fascinated me. We toyed with, for example, getting the newspapers to go along with us and publishing an erroneous or wrong treasury balance, and then indicate through the pipeline that the Cosa Nostra was responsible for it because there was so much heavy money action on the particular number. We thought of all kinds of crazy things, and they might be crazy, but maybe they're worth looking into to disrupt their gaming operations.
Yeah, well, the thing that appeals to me about lay off your bookie and your numbers for 1 week is we can propose it to the general public just as an experiment. And you might be able to persuade a significant...
Let me ask you this. Who would we check it out with?
No, we just publish it in the newspaper.
I understand, but how would we know whether it's effective?
The unemployment rolls of bookmakers?
Well...
I like the idea, and if I owned this radio station...
Let's set a date.
Yeah, I would start the campaign.
I'd say April 1st.
April
First
4th.
week in April, nobody
April
bets
4th,
on the numbers, nobody bets on the horses, just to find out what would happen. And even if we only persuaded 20 or 30% of the people, they've got so much cash flow, they've got committed to their organization that they'd be in trouble.
I'll buy that, sir. I'll go along with that approach and 100%.
Well, if Jim Lightfoot is listening, maybe he'll go along with that.
April 1st, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
first week in April. Don't bet on anything for a week and see what
FYB
happens.
week, fool your bookie week.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you.
11:20 on WBZ, the spirit of 103. Hello. You're on the air now. This is Jerry Williams.
I'd talk to Gary Ls Pierre, please.
What was that?
I'd like to talk to Gary Ls Pierre, please.
Yes, could you articulate a little better, sir?
Okay.
We're having a little difficulty. You sound a little bit like a rooster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm calling from New Bedford, and Mr. Fitzgerald mentioned a couple of times an attempt on Donald Barbosa's life down here.
Yes.
I'd like to know
Joseph
one...
Barbosa.
Yeah.
Joseph Barbosa.
No, his brother.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, okay.
I'd like to know a couple of things. One, like, if he could find out the details of this. And two, why was this never published in any newspaper or on TV or anything? I'll hang up now and he can answer that as best he can, okay?
The first question was, he wants details on this?
He wants you...
When did this happen? Like, nothing was ever published about it or anything like this. Why wasn't this published?
Well, there was a lot of things that you heard on that program tonight that have never been published before, and that's exactly why I ran the program.
Oh, okay.
As to why it wasn't in newspapers, I'm not terribly certain that it wasn't. I don't think that it was, but this was the precise purpose of this show, because John Fitzgerald was closer to this and closer to Joe Barbosa than anybody, and knew Joe Barbosa's secrets, and that's one of the reasons he's hobbling on one leg right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that one of those secrets included the move on Joe's brother, the move on his wife, his kids, the threats against him.
The works with the Barbosas
I
in
beg your pardon?
Bedford, and he never heard about it or anything. That's why I was wondering, you know?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of things about Joe Barbosa that not many people know about.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. 11:21 on BZ as we continue. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air now.
Yes, Jerry. Honey, turn that down. Hello, Jerry?
You talking to me, sweetie?
No.
Okay. Just want to check you out, you know.
Yeah, all right, no.
We get all kinds of people.
No, not one of them, Jerry.
Okay.
Listen, first of all, seriously, I want to compliment Mr. Fitzgerald for being a man that he was to come out like he did. And I want to compliment Mr. Kahn. I've followed him quite a bit, and I'm very proud of his record as far as an Attorney General's office.
Thank you, sir.
And I don't know if you know him, Mr. Kahn, or not. I want to compliment a man on this radio. He doesn't know who I am, but Mr. Miller. He used to be under Mr. I forget now. Senator, I'm nervous here. The senator we sent there was the Attorney General Brooks. I had some dealings with him.
You're talking about Howard Miller, sir, who was an assistant attorney general?
Right. He was under Mr. Brooks.
He was also under Mr. Richardson, sir, one of the finest lawyers I've ever met.
He's a very sincere man and the most honest man I've ever met besides you.
He's a close personal friend of mine, sir, and I would concur 100%. He's a great guy.
Well, I hope if he didn't hear this, you'll tell him that
I
tonight.
most assuredly will.
First of all, I'd like to say one thing. I'm glad of one thing Mr. Fitzgerald said. He didn't mean it this way, but I'm taking my own point of view of it. Of taking all this pressure off the law enforcement officers. I have always said it's been up in Beacon Hill, and I'll always say it until my deathbed. And I can say this in respect to the alcoholic, to the automobile insurance, and now to this mafia thing. Now, this immune law that Mr. Fitzgerald talked about, I think all the people should not forget this program tonight like we forget so many things so easy. And this is what's wrong with the American public. Now, we got something started here by WBZ, and I believe we should keep this going no matter if it's every night. Something should be said about it, because it is a very dangerous thing, and that woman that called up, she gave up. There's one woman that called up tonight, I believe. She's not going to play the numbers no more. Now, I believe she was sincere in this. Now, if this thing can be followed up rather than me talking here tonight and saying this and that and nobody paying attention, tomorrow night if there's a program to follow something up like this, or next week, just to keep in the American people's, the public's eye, I believe we can get something done with this.
Yeah, we got a hockey game tomorrow night.
Well, no, Jerry, all kidding aside,
I'm not kidding you at all. There is a hockey game tomorrow night.
No, I don't mean
We'll be
either
able to
next.
follow it up.
No, seriously, either next week that or something.
I like the idea. You know, it might be dangerous for those involved.
No, I don't even.
Wouldn't it be dangerous, Don?
Jerry,
And
I'm
if you
not
hurt
saying...
people were in their pocketbook, would this not be dangerous?
They're not going to like you too much, Jerry, and it conceivably could result in a little bit of personal problem. I think everybody that operates in this field has to recognize that there is conceivably a certain amount of personal risk, yes.
Right, no, I don't mean so much to that. Let the people, like that woman didn't know where her money was going. Nah. Now, I believe that we should, not even all just your radio station. That tape should be put on other stations and stuff like that. Forget this competing stuff. And this is important to the public,
Well, it would
to the
be great.
American...
As I said, if I owned a radio station, I would like to lead, kind of a cause throughout the state for one day, or for 1 week, rather, have all the radio stations, all the broadcasters in Massachusetts, and all the other communications, television, and newspapers involved for the 1 week to see whether or not that, I don't know whether you can get that kind of cooperation. Do you think you could, Gary?
That'd be quite a job.
And I want to
I'll
compliment
support
you,
it.
Gary, too, for the nice job you did on the interview.
Thank you, sir.
I'm
You
serious.
should throw me a compliment.
No, Jerry, hey, listen.
I'm only kidding. I'm not searching.
No, I'm afraid you're going to think I'll kiss you. Seriously now. After what I said at the beginning. No, really.
Yes, Jerry. Honey.
Seriously. I believe this is a thing that
I
forget
agree.
about the competitive
No, I agree.
thing.
If again I had the power, I would attempt to do that. Organize a 1 week boycott of bookies and off-track betting and anything illegal. I don't have the power to do it, but at least we can throw the suggestion out and hope that somebody might hear
Yeah,
it
and not
and
only
initiate
that.
it.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry.
Okay, thank you very much. 11:25, WBZ, Don Kahn and Gary LaPierre. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air, sir.
Yes, I'd like to ask you a question, Jerry.
Go.
I missed the talk tonight. Would there be any way I can read it in the newspapers, or will it
Gary,
be...
where can people hear it again? Will it be rebroadcast? Will
Yes.
there be a text of it, etc.?
I'm not sure, Jerry. It's a little bit up in the air now as to exactly how far it's going to go. There was possibilities of this being a network show. I'm not terribly sure that will materialize. The newspapers, I have been told, will be running some stories on it. Now, this I can't guarantee because I don't have any control over the newspapers, but I think that if it did get enough response, that it would be rebroadcast because I was personally involved in it, and of course I'm a bit prejudiced, but I don't think that there's ever been anything like it on Boston radio.
Well, see, I haven't heard it, and I'd like to hear it. You don't know for sure if it'll appear in any paper yet, definitely or not?
I don't know for sure, no.
I see. One more question I'd like to ask. Whatever happened to that Mr. Slattery?
Mr. Slattery?
What is he doing at the present time?
Who's Mr. Slattery?
Well, he used to go break up these, these
Detective Slattery, is that right? Yeah, Lieutenant Slattery. He was a well-known crime fighter in the Boston Police Force.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. I believe he's retired, is he?
Yeah,
not?
I'm not sure of that. Do you
I'm
know,
not
Gary?
certain.
No, I don't.
I remember the name well, and Slattery was one of those that was kind of a joke in the trade, but not so funny, by the way, because he would conduct a great many of these raids on bookie...
Vice Squad.
Right, Vice Squad.
I used to always say he'll be the Elliot Ness of the 80s.
Well, nobody seems to know the exact whereabouts, but they seem to think that he's retired, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's 11:27 on BZ. If you had known this number during the recent snow emergency, University 42900, it would not have been an emergency for you because Star Pharmacy's trucks would have gotten through to you. Your doctor may phone in a prescription to Star Pharmacy at University 42900. And Star, a professional pharmacy, people who have filled literally millions of prescriptions, can give you the best in professional service. I'm talking about the kind of professional service you deserve from a drugstore. No, we don't sell snow equipment. We don't sell hardware or snow shovels. Star Pharmacy is a professional pharmacy, and they will guarantee to fill that prescription promptly and efficiently and professionally. 119 Hampshire Street in Cambridge. They're open daily 9 to 9. They're happy to have you come in and browse around and look the place over if you'd like and become a customer. Open a charge if you'd like. University 42900, that's Star Pharmacy. 1128 on WBZ. And WBZ FM, Group W Westinghouse Broadcasting in Boston. Since 9:05 this evening, you've been listening to A Price on His Head, a conversation with John Fitzgerald, conducted by Gary LaPierre, who's with us tonight. That was recorded earlier. Mr. Fitzgerald has since left the country and is looking for a new life somewhere. Mr. Fitzgerald's attorney is with us tonight, Attorney Donald Kahn. He's a former Assistant Attorney General, head of the Crime Division in the former Attorney General's office, Elliot Richardson, and he's with us tonight to answer any questions or make any comments that you'd like to make. We'd be happy to hear from you. 254-5678. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Yes, I have a question. Do these loan sharks give the people who owe them money leads on crimes, places, and like cars to steal and so forth? To pay their debt as an alternate to beating them up or death or something.
Yes, sir. There's absolutely a correlation. We found, for example, investigating certain stolen car rackets, which were very widespread in this state, that there was a definite correlation between the people they were using to steal the cars and the people that owed the syndicate money. There is that they do operate that way, no question about it.
Gary, any comment on that?
I didn't want to comment on that specifically, but I wanted to talk. He brought up the idea of giving people leads, and I'd like to, at this time, to take just a couple of seconds to talk about John Fitzgerald's role when it came to leads. I think Don can explain it, that this is something that's never been before announced anywhere, and that is the fact that John Fitzgerald was, what would you call the title? Undercover agent for the Attorney General's office. And Don, you gave me a couple of examples before we went on the show of leads that he would give to law enforcement, tip-offs that actually happened.
Well, John had a particular rapport with several of us. For example, myself, because he was a classmate and he and I were friends for many years. With other individuals in law enforcement, a couple of FBI agents who he had a rapport with. And he was extremely helpful to the Department of the Attorney General in giving us leads as to the perpetrators of crimes, gangland killings, etc.
I understand he called several of them.
Yes, he did, in advance. And in addition to that, about things as bank robberies. He gave us the first information on a couple of bank robberies that occurred locally. He gave us the first information on some armed robberies which were scheduled to happen. The man was invaluable to law enforcement, and all he ever asked in return, and this Mr. Richardson agreed, that if anything ever happened to him, that we in fact make public his role with the Department of the Attorney General. We did in fact agree and had a letter that would have gone out if he had been in fact killed.
I think that, is something that the general public is not aware of. And
I don't think it's ever been heretofore stated,
something
Gary.
that John Fitzgerald, now completely out of the picture, should be credited with.
Absolutely. He was a vast help to us.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
May I make one comment?
Oh, yes, please, all right.
Just a quick one. I think the idea of your show is on the right track, and, publicity like that over and over
yes,
and over.
Will you stop the bookmaking? Will you stop placing bets during April 1 week?
I already have.
Okay, sir, thank you very much. 254-5678. I wanted to mention that tomorrow night we had scheduled to have on this program old friend Father Colleton from Dublin. But because of the hockey game, we've been preempted. What can I do about it? Father, he's in there. God bless me, and you too. We can't do the program tomorrow night because there are two hockey games, as a matter of fact, and I won't be here tomorrow night, and we've been preempted. But we have preempted him until guess what day? March 17th, of all times. And Father Colleton will be in Dublin that particular day, and we'll be talking to him by overseas telephone that night through my interpreter, Larry Glick, who will be telling us about March 17th in Dublin. And we will have him with us by telephone. We're going to have another priest who is an African missionary here in our studio on that particular night, and it's going to be a real Irish time. So that is what is going to happen for tomorrow night. For those who are going to be looking for Father Colleton, he's here in the studio tonight, but he can't be on the air because of our preemption. I'm sorry about that. Now, they're calling already, Dublin, huh? That's our special. Bruce Schwegler is here in the studio, standing by, looking up at his weather map. There it is. Every time I see these guys moving around, it grieves me that they're in here because it means disaster. Bruce, do you want to give us a special weather report?
Jerry, yes, I do want to give you a very sad weather report. We have a storm forming just over the South Carolina-Georgia border. And it appears right now the latest computer runouts on that storm, which came in at 10 o'clock, are moving that storm directly to the northeast. The northwesterly winds that we had in here earlier to hold that storm back now appear to be weakening. And it's a very good possibility that the storm is going to be in our area by tomorrow. I'm looking for snow to start here tomorrow during the morning. I can't place an exact time on it right now, but it looks like around 9 o'clock or so. Let's call it that time right now, but it looks like in the morning for sure. And the present course of the storm indicates it's going to be well to the southeast of us. However, the computers go for this to be a very intense storm. It hasn't formed really too well yet, but it's starting to form, and it looks like it's going to be a very intense storm by tomorrow afternoon, moving to the northeast about 150 miles to the southeast of Cape Cod, moving across that area. That means we're in for snow here. The amount, well, right now the amount looks like at least 4 inches. Depending on the path of that storm, we could get up to a foot or even more here in Boston by tomorrow night. The storm is moving rapidly right now. That's another indication that we could get by with lesser amounts. However, I want to warn everybody right now, there is a very good possibility that we're going to be in for the worst winter in Boston history by tomorrow evening with more heavy snow on the way. Jerry?
How would you like a knuckle sandwich? Gee whiz. Well, I spoke to Dr. Holloway the other night. He said one more belt and that would be over. And he predicted it, but it is coming, and that's the way it doesn't look like we can avoid it.
It doesn't look like we can avoid it. It looks like there is a chance yet that we'll avoid the heavier snow, but I can't see us avoiding snow tomorrow, but there's still a chance that we can avoid the heavier snow. It remains to be seen. Starting slowly during the morning tomorh.
About what time?
Well, again, in about 9 o'clock. To call an exact time right now, and it's down over South Carolina. It's a little hard right now, but it doesn't look too good.
Okay, Bruce, thank you very much for the alert. Storm Center, ladies and gentlemen, and there we go again. Welcome to Coffeeville, Smelly Studio, USA. I tell you, here we go again, huh? Anybody have you have a comment on that, Don? Is this a mafia plot, by any chance?
No, I am shocked, and I can't say anything. I'm just
everybody's kind of stunned by it.
It's incredible, positively incredible, Jerry.
There goes my weekend.
I'm putting a new convertible on the road tomorrow.
Too bad. I wouldn't leave it on the road tomorrow.
Should I leave it in the garage?
Leave it in the garage is a good idea.
Well, like I said, Gary, chances are that it's going to be a big one right now. It looks like it. And keep it tight. Stay tuned to the radio because it could be a bad one.
Hang in there, kids.
Right, WBZ will bring you all the news up to date. We appreciate it. I think what we really need is a bicidol.
When acid stirs up a storm in your stomach, and your stomach sends an SOS, settle it fast with Bicidol. Your stomach won't settle for less. Yes, settle it fast with Bicidol. Your stomach won't settle for less.
Settle the storm in your stomach with Bicidol. Bicidol tablets have the antacid action recommended most by doctors. And gram for gram, Bicidol neutralizes twice. That's twice the excess stomach acid of the leading Roll-Ment product. So,
when acid stirs up a storm in your stomach, and your stomach sends an SOS, settle it fast with Bicidol. Your stomach won't settle for less. Yes, settle it fast with Bicidol. Your stomach won't settle for less.
All right, we're back with Donald Kahn and Gary Ls Pierre. We have about 23 minutes to go before Bill Garcia comes your way and is filling in for Larry Glick, who's sick. 254-5678. Hello. You're on the air now. This is Jerry Williams.
Hi, Jer.
Hi.
I got you outside of Connecticut a few hours ago.
Yes.
I just pulled into Sharon, where I live. I came up from New York. And a very, very interesting program, but I think the gambling, the Cosa Nostra, the Mafia is going to be something that we're going to have to live with. Because, like that man said, come April 1st, we'll stop gambling and things like that. Close down the betting and so forth. I stopped to think for a minute. It would be nice if it could be done. But now, if it was done and gambling stopped and things like that, I think the Mafia or the Cosa Nostra would find other means to get involved with vice, pornographic literature, prostitution. And the people that are calling in, stating their comments, are the ones that don't want higher taxes and things like that. but they're the ones that own 2 or 3 cars in the family, that pay exorbitant state excise taxes, pay exorbitant automobile insurances. So,
Sir, if I may say, you're exactly the guy that we're trying to get to tonight. The guy who's apathetic and says, well, I guess we're going to have to live with it, to heck with it.
well, no, believe me.
You're the one we're after.
Well, let me tell you something. I do not gamble. I don't even play cards with the boys Friday nights, believe me. Because
Well, sir, let's not get too hung up on the gaming. Remember that their operations are a lot more vicious than just gaming. Their operations including narcotics, loan sharking, fencing of every hot article that you can find, murder, extortion, intimidation, etc. Don't just walk away and say, well, we can't do anything about it. Why don't you, for example, find out how your representative and your senator is intending to vote on the witness immunity bill? It isn't hopeless, sir. It can be attacked, and it can be attacked effectively if people like you get motivated and do something about it.
Well, fine with what you said if we get motivated. I'm telling you something. Now, I'm not trying to get at the local police officials, the local representatives, or like we have 254 representatives governing us here in Massachusetts and things like that, and maybe out of 254 representatives that we do have, maybe 100 of them are really go-getters who really try and want to do something for us. The odds, I feel, are against us. Maybe in due time something will happen, but we're going back to biblical times where gambling, vices, and things like that have been with us for 2,000 years. And as we've progressed through life, it seemed to have got exceedingly worse. And as much as we tried to stop it, like that courageous lawyer who tried to stop it, who almost lost his life in doing it, how many people today who have tried to stop these things have lost their lives, have been maimed, and things like that? And people have just turned the other way. Just on the news broadcast tonight in Los Angeles, I heard a girl was dragged from the street into a car where people stood by and watched and did nothing. Believe me, I'm the type of person that my conscience bothers me, and if something like this is done, if I see something illegal going on, I will notify the proper authorities. But if we can reach the people, like you said, mind you now, I am not trying to say that I'm not the type of person that's forgetting, let's face it, we've got to live with it and things like that. If we can reach the people, believe me, if we can reach them. But then again, the people are too ignorant either to the fact, or they just don't care and they don't want to obey their impulses, and they just want to go on with their everyday way of life on placing a bet with a bookie. If they can't make the track that night, they'll go to the bookie and place the bet. And maybe a guy from out of town who'd like to see a strange woman will contact somebody that knows somebody, and he'll spend the night with a prostitute. I mean, let's face it, it's ridiculous, believe me. They've tried to close down these things in town. I have known, because when I went to college, I drove a cab, and I saw what was going on. It was disgusting, really. It was.
Well, sir, we appreciate your call. It's getting a little bit lengthy, and your comments are well received. Thank you very much. 18 minutes before midnight on WBZ with Donald Kahn and Gary Ls Pierre. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, you're on the air.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Hi. Greetings to Donnie Kahn, who happens to be a friend, and God bless him.
Thank you.
And, Donnie, your father's my lawyer.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I've known you from way back.
Couldn't you have God bless Gary Ls Pierre, too?
Oh, yes, certainly.
While you're at it.
He's a real good guy, too.
Let's not leave anybody out.
Right. I'll get mine from Father Culleton later.
Oh, no, not from me, sorry. Wrong side of the church.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment about the drugs, if I might. We have a thing here where, well, not now, but we did have, where there was a gentleman outside of the high school giving out peculiar cigarettes, and one was given to my 16-year-old boy, and he came home with it. And I looked at it, and it looked like, pretty funny to me. I'd never seen anything like it, and I went down to the police station with it and turned it over to them and told them that, this was given out in front of the high school. They treated my son like a criminal. Where did he get it? Why did they happen to give it to him, etc.? and finally, after putting the boy through, a really miserable experience, decided that they would question some other kids, which they did, and it turned out that it was marijuana. And it turned out that this fellow was giving the stuff to the kids until they developed a craving for it, and then started to sell it to them at prices that, no kid that age could afford. And they would have to steal. And the girls sometimes turned to prostitution in order to get the money for the drugs. And I think that if these people, would know about things like this and fight it, and go to some of these hospitals where they have the drug addicts and see what it does to people, that they would really, fight it. It can be done, and it's up to the man in the street, you and me, not just Donnie Kahn, and the people who are high up in the government and et cetera. The police can do what they, a small amount, but they can't do that much. And it's up to you and me to let them know what's going on in their city so that they can fight it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your call. Speaking of drugs, marijuana, LSD, amphetamines, heroin, do you know what they are, the effects they cause, and who's using them? Daily this week, the Boston Globe is serializing The Seekers, a new book by award-winning, best-selling investigative reporter Jess Stern. The Seekers, a series that tells the truth about drugs, a report for both the younger generation and the parental generation. It's a Globe series that talks with young people, doctors, social workers, and parents, an account that examines the sweeping nature of youth's rejection of a society it finds tasteless and hypocritical. That answers the always asked question about the harmfulness of pot, explains what really happens under LSD, talks about the life of a heroin addict, and tells parents how they can deal with the ever-increasing problem of drugs. The Seekers, an important series on drugs and their use in America, now appearing daily, exclusively in the Boston Globe. 11:45, we continue. Hello, you're on the air on WBZ. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Am I on the air?
Yes.
Oh, okay. My first comment I'd like to make basically is that WBZ is a public service station, has been excellent. The only other time I ever called the show was on that T Group 15 show, which again was very worthwhile, I think, to the general public. My question I think I'd like to direct to Mr. Kahn, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Basically, you mentioned before about hitting the Cosa Nostra at the level of the wire service and possibly the bosses and the like. I was, and I have been thinking and have thought for quite some time, that hitting the bookie is a pretty good idea. Now, I know you mentioned before that the bookie oftentimes you can hit him and take him in, and he turns out to get a light fine, or possibly through a technicality gets out of the prosecution stage of the thing. It would seem to me that you mentioned also something about a year ago they amended the law.
Yes, they did.
With regard to the bookies.
They made it a felony and an arrestable offense.
They made it a felony and arrestable. Now, what kind of a sentence might this thing carry?
Well, it would depend on the man's previous record. It would depend on a lot of different things. It would depend on the scope of his particular operation. If we decided that he was a large bookmaker who had a large clientele and a big book, I think that he would warrant a jail sentence, perhaps even on the first go-around. If he was one of the little fellas, he might warrant a suspended sentence. I don't advocate going away from the concept of bookie raids. It's very, very effective. I do say, however, that we can't do it with just bookie raids alone. We've tried that approach. It is partially effective, but it only is a series of brush fires. We need a great big roaring blaze, sir, to do the job. But we can do them both at the same time.
Right. If I could just continue for one more second, though. It would seem that if this law now is at least more effective toward hitting this bookie, that constant raids on them, and it also would seem that that there should be full knowledge in about every town and every city that there are these bookies and where they are. I can't quite hardly imagine realistically that there are any bookies in operation that the police don't know about.
You should see some of the elaborate security devices they have to protect their arrest and apprehension, where they have actually armed walled forts that it's almost impossible, sir, to get in and get at them. You have to go through steel doors. barred windows. It is almost impossible, and yet we have very effective law enforcement agencies like the Special Services Unit of the State Police who do nothing but bang away at these people and do a very effective job at it.
Okay, if I might ask just one question about that, then how then, with all these bars and windows, does the average individual go about placing a bet there?
Because usually these are the big centers. These are the centers where the little street bookie will call in, sir. He'll call in the play. They're the wire service centers, the layoff centers, the big operations that I alluded to earlier.
I see. Okay, and Gary Ls Pierre.
Yes, sir.
I just simply want to make a comment about the fact that you did a fine job there. It seems everybody seems to be eliminating you from the conversations, and it was well appreciated, the work you did in the conversation itself.
Thank you. I think I did my thing in the first 45 minutes.
Well, that's fine.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. It's 11 minutes before midnight on WBZ Radio as we continue with Donald Kahn and Gary Ls Pierre. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Ls Pierre?
Yes, sir.
I was shocked to find out, a while back that Mr. Fitzgerald had to flee from the United States, and I'm delighted to find that you followed it up. I admire your courage on it.
Thank you.
I think, to some extent, it's been brought up a while that you're, if you want to hurt and get rid of the Mafia, to some extent you're missing the point. Two of your messages were, drug-crazed kids, and the other one was don't bet with your local bookie. Now, the Mafia, just as it did in Prohibition, makes its money off crimes of public participation.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the point drive home in that interview with John Fitzgerald.
Right, sir, and again, it was a beautiful interview. But I don't think the way to go about it, and I don't think the Mafia is worried about that either, is to tell people not to participate in these so-called crimes. The thing is to make them legal. And if you want to get rid of them, out-tax them.
Well, I'm not going to argue on the legalization of gambling because Donald...
And prostitution and drugs.
Yeah, Don Kahn is the one who brought up that particular angle, and he's...
It's come up a lot of times, sir, yeah.
He's a better attorney to argue the legalization or non-legalization of gambling, and I don't want to get into it. But,
okay. No, I'm not... I'm not into gambling and that... But,
if you can do
the thing is, you want to get rid of organized crime. This has been going on for the oldest profession.
Right, but you're not going to get rid of it overnight. And if you can do one little thing, and if it's one stupid little thing, like a betting boycott, if you will, for one lousy week, sure, it's not going to put them out of operation. But if you can do one little thing, and if we did one little thing with that 45-minute interview with John Fitzgerald and educated one little person,
well, you did.
It's a dent. And that's what law enforcement has got to do is chip away, because you're not, everybody agrees, going to get rid of it overnight.
Well, what is Mr. Kahn thing then on this? Why not?
Why not what?
Make legalize gambling, legalize prostitution,
well, we've been
legalize
over that.
drugs.
We've been over that like for an hour and a half now.
Yes, I know, and I'm sorry, I have to say, I think you miss, the point.